Oh man. Oh man. Oh man. Yo, I'm hyped. I'm feeling it. People, I'm calling it right now. This is gonna be the one. This is gonna be the movie that...
Murderer.
You killed a man.
Pimp.
Ever since comic book properties began dominating box offices all around the world, Hollywood has desperately been trying to make video game movies the next big thing. And not with too great results. There have been game adaptations that are not downright crappy. There have even been game adaptations that are, dare I say it, okay. But still, the video game movie world to this day lacks that one hella lit film that would launch the genre into superhero levels of mainstream success. It still lacks its very own Spider-Man 2, its very own The Dark Knight. For me, that hella lit game property has always been BioShock. But of course, just to piss me off, Hollywood refuses to make a properly handled BioShock adaptation a reality. Which means that we all had to settle for the second best candidate. That second best candidate being Assassin's Creed. To be honest, this film did have everything going for it. It had one of the best visual directors working today, it had an absolutely stellar cast fitting for any biggest comic book or even Oscar bait movie. The trailers did feature weird music, but whatever, they looked cool AF. For a long moment there in 2016, I was actually convinced that Assassin's Creed would be the very first film ever to break the video game movie curse of crappiness and mediocrity. And then it was released. Assassin's Creed failed everywhere. It failed with the critics, it failed with the audiences, it failed at the box office. We never got the assassins, we never got the Creed, all we got was ass. And while I don't usually say this, I wasn't too happy about getting that. This, ladies and gentlemen, is why we're here today. To piggyback off the release of the new game and to once and for all find out what went wrong with Michael Fassbender's Assassin's Creed. Why did it fall victim to the age-old video game movie curse? What exactly made it the failure it will always be remembered as?
Let him go.
Assassin's Creed as a premise has its own built-in difficulties, because it in essence features not one but two different storylines. One line serves as the past, the other line serves as the present. And for me, the film's biggest issue is the fact that it never properly connects these lines together. The movie doesn't feel like one unified story taking place in two separate times. It feels like two separate stories playing out at once. In a nutshell, the entirety of Assassin's Creed goes like this. We're in the present to develop plot and characters. Then we hop into the past to watch a few minute action sequence. Back in the present, more plot exposition, more character. Back in the past, more action. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Now, there's nothing wrong with this structure in of itself. That's how an Assassin's Creed movie should go. That's how The Matrix goes. But at the same time, in order for the film to work, these storylines can't just be their own separate things that flip back and forth here and there. They have to function as one connected thing and continuously push each other forward. There are elements of this connection with the so-called bleeding effect taken from the games. Cal starts seeing his ancestor Aguilar's ghost and also starts picking up some of his abilities. That works, that's great. But even though it's great, it's also not nearly enough. You have to do more. Take for example the supporting characters. In the Abstergo facility, Cal meets a bunch of other assassin descendants. He interacts with them, he fights alongside them, and that's cool. But if the movie wanted to do more, it would have integrated those side characters into both storylines instead of just one. Instead of being just random assassin descendants from wherever, they would have been descendants of those assassins we saw with Aguilar. Their ancestors were there to fight alongside Aguilar in the past, and now they're here to fight alongside Cal in the present. You use the same actors in both storylines, and just like that, they become mirror images of each other, and they would have felt connected. Same with the main bad guy henchman, the Templar warrior in the past, the security guard in the present. They should be the same bloodline. Just like Aguilar battles the warrior in the past, Cal should battle the security guard in the present, both henchmen played by the same actor. This way the movie can build both relationships at the same time, because the relationships are the same. The more we learn to hate the warrior, the more we learn to hate the security guard. Now there's a clear connection. Same with Sophia Reichen. At least for me, the female assassin in the past was one of the best aspects of this entire film. So it would have been cool if it turned out that assassin was Sophia's ancestor. The same way Aguilar had feelings for her, now Cal has feelings for Sophia. And since Sophia's on the Templar side, that would have brought up a very interesting conflict. I could go on and on with this, like with the fact that it would have been hella lit if Cal escaped the facility in the present by making a leap of faith he learned from Aguilar in the past, and so on. But you get the idea. Even if your movie has two different storylines, you can't let those storylines be separate. You have to connect them into one. As I mentioned before, one film that shares a lot in common with Assassin's Creed is The Matrix. And what differentiates these films the most is that in The Matrix, the rules are kept very simple and straightforward. You plug into this fictional reality and you can interact within it. You get hurt in The Matrix, you get hurt in the real world. You die in The Matrix, you die in the real world. Simple, straightforward. The issue with Assassin's Creed is that it never clearly establishes the rules of its world, the rules of the Animus machine. I do get the basics. You plug in and you can relive the memories of your ancestors. That's all fine and peachy. But what does it mean? How exactly does reliving the memories of your ancestor play out in practice? Is Cal in control? Does he have to do something, or is he just along for the ride? Is there any danger in it for him other than when he's quote-unquote not synchronized, whatever that actually means? None of these questions are ever properly answered, and that lack of clear rules is what prevents the audience from fully getting immersed in what they're seeing. There is an argument to be made that the movie just follows the games, and that's fair to say. But the problem is, what works in a video game doesn't necessarily work in film. The game gets away with not answering all those questions because it's an interactive experience where the player controls the ancestor. But with the film, we don't have that. We don't control anything or anyone. All we can do is watch from the sidelines, which means that we have to fully understand what it is we're watching.
Hey, I was wondering, can you pick and choose the moment in time you want to go to? And if so, can't you just directly go to the moment Aguilar has the apple?
That's not how the Animus works.
Okay, but then how is the moment selected? How do you even know when and where to go?
That's not how the Animus works.
Right, but there has to be a reason we're watching all these specific events, right?
That's not how the Animus works.
So what? You're just not gonna explain any of this?
That's how the Animus works.
If a sequel ever gets made, the Animus is the very first thing the filmmakers have to address. And instead of imitating the games, in my opinion, they should just take a page from the Matrix's book. Right from the start, Cal should go in the machine and a couple things should be established. 1. When Cal relives Aguilar's memories, he becomes Aguilar. He knows what Aguilar knows, he feels what Aguilar feels, he can do what Aguilar can do. But all the actions and choices he has to make. He isn't just watching Aguilar, he isn't just mimicking Aguilar, he is Aguilar. Just like Neo in the real world is Neo inside the Matrix. Just like the player is the assassin in the games. 2. Cal can get hurt. Now, I'm not entirely sure how this would work in practice. If Aguilar is supposed to get hurt in a memory, should Cal then get hurt as well? Not sure. But regardless, there has to be a constant feeling of tension and stakes. If Cal fumbles and makes a mistake inside the Animus, he suffers the consequences in the real world. That's how it should be, same as in the Matrix. You get hurt in the Animus, you get hurt in the real world. You die in the Animus, you die in the real world.
Nuestras vidas no son nada.
In a complex sci-fi movie like this, you have to establish the rules. Simple, straightforward. And sadly for all of us, Assassin's Creed never does. Also, I didn't ever quite understand how an uneatable apple is going to take away people's free will. But whatever, maybe let's just move on. The golden guideline of Hollywood states that if you can't make your movie good, at least make it short. And this guideline is something that Assassin's Creed clearly followed. But instead of positive results, doing so only made things worse. True, Assassin's Creed isn't 90 minutes long. It's 10 minutes longer, 100 minutes. The official runtime is 115, but those last 15 are credits, not the movie. So 100 minutes. And to put it bluntly, that's way too short for a film that's meant to juggle two main storylines. In essence, every movie consists of 3 parts: beginning, middle, end. If you can trim down each of those parts for a shorter movie, fine. The problem is, that's not what Assassin's Creed did. The way Assassin's Creed trimmed down its runtime was by not having the end part at all. At the end of Act 2, we discover the location of the Apple of Eden, and then after an all-out riot, we escape the facility. And this is where normally the third act would kick in. But of course, it doesn't, because there is no third act. Instead, the movie just ends. Cal casually shows up at the Templar meeting, kills Jeremy Irons without any resistance whatsoever, and then poses on a rooftop for one last shot. Roll credits. There's your third act. No challenge, no tension, no danger, no build-up, nothing. It just ends. And to be honest, that did kinda piss me off. Now, you could argue against this. You could say that we already are in the third act, that the Templar meeting is just the very final climax. Fine, but it sure as F doesn't feel like it. For one, everything about the pacing screams otherwise. After the big battle at the facility, our main hero loses the villains and has to gear up for one last effort. That's the very definition of the end of Act 2. But either way, the main issue still remains. The issue that the final climax isn't very good. I mean, it f***ing sucks. In order to save time, the ending is shown from the villain's POV. And this very well could be the biggest mistake of the entire movie. Just think about it. Now that Cal has finally learned some of Aguilar's assassin abilities, don't you think it would have been cool to actually see him put those abilities to use? Show us how he and his new best friends plan to infiltrate the Templar meeting. Show us how they execute that plan. For the love of God, just show us something. Anything instead of Cal just casually strolling in like he's a freaking guest of honor. Like, are you kidding me? What ticks me off the most is the why. Why we never got to see these modern assassins in action. Why Sophia's change of heart comes pretty much out of nowhere. And the answer is the sequel. This movie is so desperate to jump right into the sequel that it forgets to even fully finish itself. And because of this sequel bait thought process, because of this missing Act 3, now that sequel most likely will never happen at all. Nice. I know I'm starting to get harsh, but once again, it is because I care. Because I genuinely do think Assassin's Creed as a franchise is a great fit for a film. And honestly, I don't think you can put together a better cast and crew than that this movie had. To be fair, there are good things about the film as well. The acting for the most part is good, in particular the female assassin. The music is great. Plus, visually, the movie is very impressive. The action sequences inside the Animus especially, fantastic. But overall, there's just too many problems with the script, courtesy of who else but Ubisoft. And those script problems unfortunately do prevent this movie from ever reaching its full potential. Take for example the character of Cal. Even though Michael Fassbender does clearly try, Cal as a protagonist ultimately never is that interesting. Mostly because he's one of those dreaded inactive protagonists. He doesn't push the story forward, he just does what he's told. He's a hamster in a wheel, and there's only so long you can watch a hamster in a wheel before it gets uninteresting. If we by some miracle ever do get a sequel, the story should be more personal to Cal. Instead of being forced to go inside the Animus, he should have his own reasons for doing so. And hopefully a bit better reasons than just to spite his daddy like some moody teenage girl. Also, even the themes of the movie are pretty crooked. The whole story revolves around the bad guys wanting to erase people's free will. But at the same time, those same bad guys do make it awfully clear that they need Cal to go inside the Animus out of his own will. His own free will.
If we eradicate free will, we eradicate the assassins.
No. Not if you go in there of your own free will.
The threat remains while free will exists.
He has to go in of his own free will, you said that.
Well, which is it? Do you want people to have free will or do you not want people to have free will? Make up your mind, god dang it. Usually I am against Hollywood studios coming in and taking over a project creatively, but with Ubisoft I am willing to make an exception. If Ubisoft really does want to make a good Assassin's Creed film, they will stick to their repetitive open world grindfest games and let proper filmmakers do their thing, instead of keeping them in a leash and dictating what the story should be. That way, hopefully we will get a movie that can be remembered as something positive, not as a failure. Because honestly, I'd very much like an Assassin's Creed film where the most memorable part isn't when the main lead says that he killed a pimp.
That's not how the Animus works.
Here we are, boys and girls. Feel free to let off steam about Assassin's Creed below. Who knows, maybe it'll make the pain go away. Also, tell me your thoughts on a possible sequel. How would you make it better? Thanks for watching.